getting close. It's contact. Max Verstappen claims title number 3. It's time for the rubber to hit the road. We're ready to go racing. And the Grand Prix is go!
That was a ripper of a move from Norris.
I like that. Very impressive. They go wheel to wheel. Oh, he made contact! That is a big whack.
This track lends itself so well to racing.
Max wins the British Grand Prix!
Yes! Get in there, Luke.
Hamilton with an iconic victory in Silverstone.
I love you, Silverstone.
Well, after an action-packed finale to the Austrian Grand Prix, Formula One comes to the iconic Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, one of the most loved and historic races on the calendar. And it will be packed with some of our sport's most passionate fans. Max Verstappen may be leading the championship, but he's certainly not having it all his own way. Welcome to Weekend Warm-Up. And welcome to Silverstone. We've got a wonderful vantage point of the track just behind us, and we've got a bumper crew to bring you a bumper race. Joining me here, Barretto, Jolyon Palmer and Ruth Buscombe. A myriad of opinions and so much to talk about and to get through. Alex Brundle is also here with us, and of course Will Buxton. We'll be hearing from him a little bit later on as well. But here we are in Silverstone. It's nice weather-ish for now. It isn't set to be that steady through the weekend, which could very much be a talking point. But Lawrence, how excited are you to be here at the British Grand Prix?
Oh, super excited. I always feel like I'm coming home when I come to Silverstone. There's a real nice vibe in the paddock, and like you said, Laura, the weather is set to get worse through this weekend, but I think it's always windy at Silverstone being on this airfield. It's always pretty tricky. I feel bad for your hair blowing around in the wind right now.
It's
but no, look,
time.
there's a real nice vibe in the paddock because we had that great race in Austria. Lando, Max, it's going to be the sequel, isn't it, here?
Yeah, it really is. I also feel bad for the fact I'm going to run this track, and I'm sure I'll have a fair few tailwinds and a fair few headwinds out there. Jolyon, how are you?
Yeah, great. Absolutely love it here. Echo Lawrence's thoughts. And we just always seem to get good Grand Prix around this circuit. I said it at the end of last week, Austria, the Red Bull Ring, is a great racetrack. We come straight to another.
Yeah, we do. Ruth, how excited are you to be back here? You must have good memories of this track and maybe some not so good ones as well in your time.
Yeah, I feel like I grew up around here, came here as a kid, ran my Formula student car, and then my entire adult life has been Formula One. Also a great strategy track, so great to be home.
Yeah, it is a great strategy track. We're going to get into that. Look, the breaking news coming in to today, Ollie Bearman has signed for Haas, the F2 driver who, of course, made his F1 debut in Saudi Arabia earlier this year in the place of Carlos Sainz. Into the points there, he has secured his future in Formula One for Haas. Lawrence Barretto sat down with him a bit earlier on.
Ollie, great to see you. Congratulations on getting a seat on the Formula One grid for 2025. When I say those words out loud, how does it sound?
It's a special feeling. It's very proud. It's you know, when you take a step back and think about it, it's what I've been dreaming of since a kid. It's what I've been working towards for the last 12 years, something like this. So it's been a long journey, and it feels like making the step to F1 is like you start the journey, because you know you spend all these years trying to get to F1, and now it's finally official. I'm really excited to get started.
Obviously, lots of people have been talking about the possibility for months now. You've had an F2 campaign to deal with as well. You had that great race for Ferrari in Saudi. How have you coped with just not knowing, I guess, until just recently?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure of not knowing is tough. You want to have your future secured as soon as possible. It's great for a driver's mentality, so I'm glad that that's finally the case. And I hope it will help my performances as well. But, you know, this has been on the cards for a while, and especially after Jeddah, which was a great result. It's, you know, I could see it becoming the case. So, like I said, I'm really happy that it's finally official.
Oh, congratulations to Ollie Bearman. And you know what? You wonder how long he's known. The rumours have swirled for a while, and every time I've seen him in the paddock, he cannot keep that smile off his face, and now it can truly beam, and he can tell us all that he will be a Formula One driver, a multi-year deal as well. Jolyon, I mean, from F2 to F1, it's a journey you've done yourself. How special is it? What will it mean?
Oh, it's huge. Reaching Formula One is the stuff that you dream of when you're growing up. For Ollie, he's already had a Formula One race and equipped himself very well, and that's basically what's got him the drive. When he jumped in the car in the Haas last year, he looked impressive in Mexico. He's able to hustle the car on. He's got great car control naturally. It's a strange one that the guy in 14th, who's nearly 100 points off a rookie championship leader, is getting the nod first. I don't know what it says for Formula 2 right now, but for Ollie Bearman, he is a talent despite that. And yeah, we know he can already do a very solid job in Formula One.
That's a whole other debate, isn't it, that we'll get into another time. The second seat for Haas, what are you hearing, Lawrence?
Well, I sat down with Komatsu yesterday to talk about Bearman, but obviously asked him that question. He said we should know very soon who they're going to be putting in that car. It seems like it's going to be Esteban Ocon, if I'm honest. He's the favourite to get that seat. He's been the favourite for a long time now. Valtteri Bottas is in the running still, but it looks like Ocon's edging it.
Double points as well for Haas. They are now saying, look, we're competitive, not just that, firmly in the midfield. This is a team who came into the season saying, don't look at us, we're going to be right at the back. You know, we are nowhere, and now Haas very much double points last weekend in the midfield and competitive at that. OK, let's hear from Will Buxton. Will, where are you?
Thank you, Laura. I'm down here in the paddock outside Haas because I thought I'd run you through where we're at with driver market chat and also where we're at with FP1 drivers, because Ollie Bearman, fresh from that new contract, will be driving in FP1 for Haas this weekend in place of Nico Hülkenberg. Now, we've seen F2 drivers do FP1 sessions before. It's not quite that simple here at Silverstone because the F2 paddock is all the way up at the old pit lane on the other side of the track, but he'll be down here for FP1. Another F2 driver doing an FP1 session this weekend over here at Williams, Franco Colapinto, who won a Formula 2 race at Imola earlier this season. So he'll be jumping into the car in place of Logan Sargent. There's Alex Albon just posing for some photographs. And when we talk about Logan Sargent, it seems increasingly as though Logan's time in Formula One will come to an end at the end of this season. Rumours linking him highly with a move to IndyCar. Who takes his place? And as always, it seems to come down to Carlos Sainz making his mind up as to whether he will go to Williams or whether he will go to Alpine. The option of going to Sauber and picking up that Audi drive now seems to be quite a distant one. Carlos seems to have made his mind up. That's not the project that he wants to take on. It will take the team too long to be competitive. So he's currently weighing up the odds between Williams and Alpine. If he doesn't go to Williams, the big question mark there is who do they pick up? Some rumours swirling about potentially Daniel Ricciardo. If Valtteri Bottas doesn't end up in that Haas seat alongside Ollie Bearman, might he potentially end up at the Williams, back working with James Vowles, back at the team where his Formula One journey began? It would be a nice full circle moment for Valtteri and indeed for James and indeed for Formula One. So who does end up here at Sauber in that Audi seat? It is a big question and we don't really have an answer to it yet. Liam Lawson being linked with that seat if AlphaTauri, what they're called these days, VCARB, decide that they don't want to run Liam Lawson, because there is only so long they can wait to let Liam know if they want his services next year. And if they don't, that could be quite a strong option for him. Over at VCARB this weekend, Isaac Hadjar will be in place. He's in place of Sergio Perez at Red Bull. But Isaac is now moving himself into consideration for that VCARB seat in 2025, should they not pick up Daniel Ricciardo. The other driver who we're going to see this weekend is actually over here at Alpine during FP1, and that is friend of the show, Jack Doohan. Now, he is very much in contention for that Alpine seat if Carlos Sainz decides that this isn't where he wants to go, potentially also fighting with Mick Schumacher for that second seat at Alpine. But it all hinges on Carlos Sainz. Does he decide to come here to Alpine, potentially with a Mercedes engine in the back of that car? And that could be what's making this look like a really nice option. Of course, the big one as well, Mercedes. I've believed since the second Lewis Hamilton said he was off to Ferrari that would go to Andrea Kimi Antonelli. As the season has gone on, not seen any suggestion really that it's going to be anybody else other than him. So that's pretty much where we stand with the driver market. That's where you stand for your FP1 drivers. It's going to be Bearman, Colapinto, Hadjar, and Jack Doohan. Laura, back to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Will. We have run down into the pit lane, and talking of FP1, Ruth, how important is it for those drivers who are stepping in to make their mark, but equally get the team's jobs done?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a balancing act, you know. Definitely they want to be posting fast lap times. You know, you always see the delta between, you know, your standard race driver and your FP1 driver. But most importantly, you've got to keep it on the black stuff, do your homework, be a good team player. And P1 here is not the best session in terms of track conditions. The track is usually very green or got a lot of rubber in it. And because of the way the race weekend works, normally they get given those hard tyres because the teams don't normally need 2 of those on Sunday. So tricky one. And then, of course, quite a lot of them have got to go and jump back into different machinery with very different braking for the F2 qualifying. So it'll be a fun day for them.
Yeah, it's an absolutely stacked day if you're an F2 driver stepping into an FP1, and not to mention it is looking like it's going to rain tomorrow as well. We're going to take a look back now at what happened last time out in Austria. I wasn't at that race weekend. What a race for me to miss. My goodness me. Lawrence Barretto, please recap in 60 seconds what happened.
Well, it's been a while since I've done this, so Laura, maybe I can catch you up for 60 seconds. But it was a pretty standard start for Max and Lando. They had a great getaway, weren't really teasing each other into turn 1. It was the chaos further back. This was the first incident for Oscar Piastri. Contact with Charles Leclerc, which genuinely ruined his Grand Prix, pushed him out of the points, any chance of getting points. As I said, Oscar had a second contact this time with Checo, caused quite significant damage to his Saipon. That's what Checo said really limited his way of coming back into the field. There were some good battles further back. The Mercedes had a go, Lewis got ahead of his teammate George Russell in the early phases, and we had a really spicy battle between the Alpines of Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. I enjoyed Pierre Gasly saying ciao to Esteban Ocon as he passed him. Then we had a difficult moment in the pit lane for Red Bull, and that's quite unusual, and really that exploded the race into life. We had the first of a number of very close encounters between Lando and Max throughout turn 3 heading down into turn 4 until that moment when they got way too close. That caused a puncture for Lando, caused a puncture for Max. Lando's race was over. Max's race just about recovered to 5th, was it? 5th or 6th?
5th place, yeah. And George Russell, of course, ultimately the winner, picking up the pieces from P3. Now, I know that incident has very much divided fans out there. It's divided media, it's divided teams as to who was at fault, whether the penalty was fair or too harsh or too lenient. We've got new exclusive angles, extensive angles to bring you in just a moment. But now that the dust has settled somewhat, the drivers have had a couple of days to reflect. Let's take a listen to what Lando Norris and Max Verstappen had to say today.
You know, Max isn't going to want to crash. He's not going to want to ruin his own race and his own chances. So I think, yes, there are definitely things I need to do slightly differently. But in the end of it, I don't think he's going to change too much. I don't think I need to change too much. So, yeah, could we have avoided the crash? Definitely, because there's something I could have done. I easily could have used more curb. But, yeah, there's things from both sides that I'm sure we wanted to do better or in a slightly different way. Our incident was so tiny, so for what it was, I don't think it really should have been a big penalty at all. Or even if a penalty in the end of the day. But considering it put me out of the race and took me out of a chance of winning a race and that kind of thing, then it definitely adds a lot more to the facts, and if we had a big enough lead and he could still go on to win the race or something, then yeah, I think I do think it needs to be taken into account in some ways, but understanding how and how much and where that line is, again, I think is a complicated and difficult thing. So yeah, something I'm sure we'll have to speak about as FIA and drivers, but not an easy thing to have a rule for.
Lando, can I just follow up on something you've just said, which is, do you think Max didn't deserve a penalty last weekend?
No comment.
Chance to talk to Lando much and kind of move on from it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's always been the case, but I think for me, most important, of course, coming out of the weekend was just, chatting with Lando, and we did that immediately on Monday, and of course, I think, he was upset with it, I was upset with it, that as friends also, we got together fighting for the lead, but looking back at it, we had a good battle. Unfortunately, it was actually quite a silly little touch that we had that both gave us a puncture, which then ruined the race. So that was a shame, but we also said to each other we have to race each other hard, because that's what we like to do, both of us, and that's what we'll continue to do.
So if he's quick again this weekend and you're going to be quick as well, you'd kind of approach the battle in the same sort of way?
Yeah, we should race. That's what we said.
Great stuff. Thanks, Max.
We should race, are the words from Max Verstappen, and it seems to me that Lando Norris, based on what he was saying in the media pen, immediately out of the car, when of course the emotions are sky high and the adrenaline is running through his veins, has somewhat calmed down and reflected on what happened. Alex and Jolyon, I know you had slightly differing views on the incident. How do you both reflect now, a few days on, and given that we are seeing new angles?
I think they both spoke quite well. They obviously want to try and diffuse it. They are friends. They have been respectful throughout their battles so far in Formula One, and obviously it blew over in the race. For me, my opinion is the same. I think there's a lot of transgressions where Max was on the edge or over the rules, basically, with keeping the position off the track, with moving under braking. Some of them are grey areas, like the moving under braking. He shouldn't have been able to keep the place off the track. And they're right. The contact was small. On another day, it wouldn't have been a retirement and a big issue, but the contact was there, and Max was adjudged to have caused it. And I agree with the stewards.
Yeah, I agree with the stewards as well in this. What great sports people to listen into, such a sense of balance and proportion from both of them. I mean, my overwhelming sensation on it is misjudgment, not malice. From Max. I don't think, as I said straight after the race, he had the intention to cause contact out there. They're racing hard. Whether you consider that incident in isolation as a moment which was a tiny contact between them, or whether you consider it as a culmination of a sequence of events, affects the judgment a lot on how you perceive the incident. But I think Max has made a misjudgment there, and with the view back to the incident after maybe, best part of a week later, they can both see that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, and I agree entirely that both incredibly measured, balanced. Let's take a look, though, at these angles, guys. Just talk us through this from a racing driver perspective.
Yeah, so they're both off the road here, and down to the outside for Lando Norris, and that's the moment I really think that Verstappen has basically misjudged the position of the McLaren on the outside. The one thing that hasn't been spoken about here, and I don't know if you think the same, JP, is the afters of this got relatively spicy as well, didn't it, down towards turn 4? And I think it's something that hasn't really been picked up much since the incident.
Yeah, I mean, we can see it on board with Lando, who picks up an anti-stall, takes the clutch, and now Max has got a puncture. Let's have a look on board here. So there's a small move to the right, then he comes back to the left, there's the contact, and you can see how small it is, to be fair, but he's fighting the car now, and then he just looks to the right-hand side and drifts across the road. In the end, that's not a monumental part, because their race is already over. Yeah, but it's all part of the attitude of everything to keep Lando behind. I mean, yeah, my view hasn't changed with these new angles, to be honest. I think it's hard racing. I think Lando was looking to do something different to what he'd tried to do before. I think he had the position to do that, because Max moved to the middle initially, gave him the space, and then took it away again. Could Lando have avoided it? Yes. Should he have had to avoid Max coming across? I think no.
I think a sense of balance was required, in the sense that it needs to be clear for the broad church of viewers, when Max comes across the road, he's not trying to clean run Lando off the racetrack. There's a reason for that. As a driver, you try to open the corner as much as possible to make sure you get the exit down to turn 4. In that specific incident, he's misjudged it. I think the penalty is warranted, but maybe not the sort of vilification that went with it.
Yeah, I think we've seen a sort of divisive week, and I'm glad that the drivers have kind of settled that this week. I think my kind of conclusion from it has been that what we have are two drivers who believe they absolutely can win Grand Prix, and they're both going to fight and not budge an inch, either of them, to try and do it. And for us as neutral viewers, that's incredibly exciting. Game on. We've got a real season now.
And I still think whatever Lando says, he will have learned something about how Max races. Even in the sprint, he underestimated Max. We said it at the time. He took the place with the dive bomb at turn 3, but then Max did his own dive bomb back, and he didn't expect Max to be, making the pass back. And it was a great pass back from Max in the sprint. And again in the race, the extent that Max will fight for a win is understandable, but I think Lando underestimated, that level of fight from Max, and I'd be surprised if he does again.
Interestingly as well, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris both saying, look, we didn't race each other in lower categories. We're just learning how each other are racing at full tilt now, and we get to witness that. It's something special. Let's take a look at the Driver Championship points then as they stand. Max Verstappen is leading the way. Lando Norris moved up to P2. You can see them on the left of the screen here now. Lando is 81 points behind Verstappen, but I think emerging now as the main contender for the championship, as Ferrari just slightly losing their way. Sergio Perez down in P5, of course, the side pod damage very much curtailing his chances in Austria, but also a difficult sprint race for him as well with P8. Ferrari just behind in P3 and P4, Leclerc on 150 points, Sainz on 135, but they are still P2 in the constructor standings. McLaren and Mercedes not too far off at all. Not too long ago, Ferrari was seemingly mounting a title challenge here. They were, I think it was something like 30 points, around about that in each of them behind Red Bull. Now coming into this weekend, we suddenly have new contenders. It's almost like P2 are kind of taking chunks off each other rather than, and Red Bull can continue to mount their lead, Ruth. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's so great for us in terms of at home to be able to see these tiny margins and how one upgrade, even though, obviously they've been quite big upgrade packages, has really changed the ebbs and flows. And I think it's so great that lots of people at home are kind of really starting to understand, when you go to a track with its certain corner characteristics where we see certain cars get faster and slower relative to each other. So I like the fact that we get to geek out and talk about, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. McLaren, Red Bull expected to go pretty well here. Ferrari, what do you reckon?
I don't think it'll be the easiest weekend for them. They're trying to add downforce, but they're struggling to do it without bouncing in the high speed, which makes the car snappy, difficult to drive. And then you can't add the downforce efficiently. And that's where Ferrari are struggling. They were obviously very good at Monaco, but again, low speed, you're not building up the high speed, and there's no big commitment corners there. This one's full of big commitment corners. It's probably closer to Barcelona, the Spanish Grand Prix. And so I think the form book is more likely to be like Spain than anything else. Spain meets Austria, meets Silverstone, the end of a triple header.
There you go. You've just described the calendar. Well done, Jolyon. And looking at Mercedes as well, obviously our recent race winner is George Russell. How do you feel they will go here? Obviously home soil counts for something, but it won't necessarily win you a race.
Well, they snatched a result, didn't they, in Austria? The performance level that they had didn't bear that out. But I think they should be ahead of Ferrari here. Ferrari really taken the wrong branch of the tree with the way that they've developed the car, but they're going to be clearly behind Red Bull and McLaren, who are going to be the class of the field and the battle at the front.
And remember last year, you had Verstappen, Norris, Piastri at the start. It all got very, Norris took the lead, Piastri nearly came through as well. And I think McLaren are more competitive here than they were last year. So we know that this can be a good fight. And I would say Piastri's going to be quick here. We've come off the back of some Norris tracks. He's always been good in Barcelona. He's always been really strong in Austria. This one, he's been good, but I think Piastri's got form here as well, so I think he could join the party.
Piastri has real form, and do you know what? That overtake on Sainz in Austria as well was absolutely
not just Sainz,
stunning.
On Perez, on Hamilton,
back in the sprint on his teammate as well, round the outside.
On his own teammate, it was amazing.
Yeah, Piastri's got form, McLaren have form, and it's a home race for the team, but Red Bull are going to fight as well. George Russell, though, is top of the tree. He's top of the tree, let's say, in Austria. He is our recent race winner. Let's hear from him.
It's always great to be back on the top step, and obviously there's been so much hard work from the whole team to improve the car and get us in a position to do that. I said afterwards I felt like we should have won the race in Montreal and ended up P3, and at the weekend we should have finished P3 and we won the race, and that's how racing goes sometimes. But it's so great we're now in an opportunity to be fighting at the front, fighting for podiums, and ready to capitalise when things happen.
When things happened, what chance things happening this weekend at Silverstone?
I've got to ask this guy if there's much going to happen, but it's. I think it's going to be a good fight again this weekend. I think Lando and Max are probably going to be the two guys out in front. They look really fast in the high-speed corners the last couple of races, and of course here in Silverstone there's a lot of high-speed sections, so I expect those guys to be the favourites, but I don't think we'll be far behind.
Well, great stuff for George Russell in Austria, and you felt in Canada when he was P3, that could have been a P1. He was P3 in Austria, and it became a P1. As he said, that's racing, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, and he will be looking to repeat that form here on home soil, as will his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who knows this place, who loves this place, and my goodness me, does this place love him as well. Mercedes were looking for a result on home soil, and finally you feel that car is moving in the right direction and moving pretty quickly at that, well and truly in the mix. We'll move to Alpine. Big news for Alpine in terms of their technical structure and in terms of bolstering that technical team, Lawrence.
Yeah, they didn't fancy putting out a press release like Williams did earlier in Austria, and I think they announced 26 hires. Alpine have done a significant number of hires, but they wanted to highlight 3, 2 of which have come from Red Bull, 1 from Ferrari. I think they wanted to send a message like Williams did, that they are bolstering their teams as well, because essentially Williams and Alpine are fighting over Carlos Sainz, so they want to present themselves in the best way possible, and ultimately at the minute that's all they can do. And David Sanchez doing a great job over there, kind of reshaping the technical team. These new hires will help that as they're kind of building forward. So yeah, good signs for Alpine at the minute.
And Ruth, what's that like for a technical team to take a new shape kind of midway through a season, or indeed building into a new year like 2025? How do they bed in and how do they begin to make their mark on the team?
Well, it really depends on the role, because some roles, when it's more to do with the design of the car, the latency in that can be 18 months, 2 years before kind of you really start to see changes. Obviously, if it's more on the operational side, then, you could swap between P1 and P2 and get an improvement. So, it really does depend on how they want to structure it and how they're going to look forward. And as you know, it's a balancing act between trying to consolidate those positions in the back end of the championship this year, and on January 1st, 2026 starts, because that's when you can start actually designing your car. So it really is such a balancing act, especially for those teams where it's a huge amounts of money, the difference between P6 and P10 in the championship.
And Alpine, of course, with such a slow start to this season, they're beginning to pick up pace now, Jolyon. We're seeing that in the way that the teammates are battling out on track. Just very quickly, how much have you enjoyed this Gasly versus Ocon battle, and what are you expecting here at Silverstone for both Alpine, its package, and indeed those two drivers?
Yeah, I mean, I love the fight.
I love the fight.
They're really evenly matched. We know the history between Pierre and Esteban. They grew up racing each other in France and weren't best of mates. And finally, it's sort of showing. I like to see rivalries in Formula One, and not least between teammates. I think they've got to be careful. I think they have got to work together a little bit more. I think Esteban knows that as well for his own career. Obviously, Pierre's staying with Alpine, so he needs to try and keep the team galvanised and lift it. And they're still both really good drivers. They're race winners. The battling, Monaco aside, has been fun to watch, and we never doubted it, did we, that Alpine would come roaring back.
Intense, hard and fair, I think, is how the two drivers have described their battle in Austria. We'll see what happens here in Silverstone. Lawrence, we'll head to Aston Martin. Big news for them in terms of recruiting as well. Talk us through it.
Well, obviously, the big story, generally speaking, is they are looking for Adrian Newey, but the news they released this week was that they brought on Andy Cowell. Andy Cowell is the mastermind behind the Mercedes power unit that kind of drove them to those 6 double world championships. He was the guy, really, everyone kind of hung it on, that success. He then obviously left the team in 2020 and has kind of been outside of Formula One for that long. So for them to kind of essentially shock the paddock and announced that he was coming back is a significant move. He can really help Honda, their works partner from 2026, bed in. I think when you've got a name like that, that will attract more people to want to go and work on this project. And look, Aston Martin, they need to make a step soon. You know, Lawrence Stroll's pumped money into the team for 7 years now, and he will be expecting some returns pretty quickly. And I think when he's going for these heavyweight names, swapping out Martin Whitmarsh for Andy Cowell, he'll want to see some results for this money that he's putting in.
Big news, isn't it? Ruth, I'm going to come to you on Williams. Obviously, it's been a difficult start, some highs, a few more lows for that team. What do you think their expectations are here at Silverstone? Obviously, a home race for the team. And how can they perhaps use strategy to prise open a few doors?
Well, on paper, it's not going to be worlds apart from where it's been before. The thing about Silverstone is often it's right on the cusp of kind of a 1/2 stop. You can often do a nice reverse strategy where you kind of like, if the house is going on red, you can go and bet on black. And so I think they do have options, but the strength of that car last year and the strength of Albon as a driver was always tyre degradation. And that actually is a weakness of that car this year. That, even Albon and his masterful and wonderful foot can't seem to go around. And this is such a tough tack on tyres. So I think it will be a tough one, but, never say never.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, and you never know, and weather is certainly going to play a part for this weekend as well. There was a very funny moment when the drivers were arriving at track earlier on today. Lando Norris arrived looking incredibly cool. I think he was in a sort of mirrored car. Alex Albon, I think not knowing perhaps whose car it was, here's Lando Norris arriving, looking really cool. A bit of slow-mo footage for you all as well. Look at that car, beautiful. Alex Albon then reaches in and retrieves the pass that I think Lando Norris forgets. He often forgets his pass coming into track, doesn't he? And he often sort of like vaults the paddock gates and tries to get him. We'll see if Alex Albon holds that ransom for Lando Norris.
That's one way to beat him, isn't it?
It is.
He can't get
Don't let him in.
19 drivers competing. It came up oozing cool.
Imagine if Silverstone, the paddock gates, don't let Lando Norris in. You never know. It may happen. You've got to have your pass, guys. Okay, Sauber. Just as the wind begins to pick up here, we are going to have some weather blowing in, I think. Sauber, yet to pick up a point this season. It's looking so difficult for them. And reading some of the quotes from Austria, they're sort of saying things like, well, the car is moving in the right direction. We feel like we are a little bit more competitive, but it seems they're way off points at the moment, Lawrence.
Yeah, I think the feeling in the team is they have made a step forward. The problem is everyone else has made a bigger step, and that's unfortunate for this team. You look at the last couple of weekends and Valtteri Bottas talks about, they know what the problem is, but it's just not a quick fix. And that means the next run of races, they all know internally, it's going to be a difficult one. You can't these days in Formula One just find a problem and then fix it instantly. And when other teams are doing having such success with their update packages, they're all just pulling ahead at the front of the field. And it's really tough for Valtteri and Bottas and Zhou Guanyu because they're trying to sort out their futures, right? And they just don't look very strong out there on track in a car that can't perform, and they can't deliver what they feel they can do.
It's the same for Sauber, though. They've got half an eye, 3/4 of an eye on Audi.
What?
Does that work?
Maybe one eye would work.
Half an eye, one and a half eyes. 1.5 eyes. That's the one.
For more anatomy lessons, join us next time.
1.5 eyes they've got on Audi coming in 26. So they're just treading water now, seeing out this guys of Sauber. They want to get some results. Obviously, the team here is still working hard to put it together. You, I'm sure, know a lot more than me on this. But at the same time, they're not doing well enough to lure. They've got Hulkenberg coming, but Sainz, you look and you see Sauber performing like this. Okay, Audi are coming in, and there's cachet to that and the manufacturer support, but you look at Sauber and you think, I don't know if I want to be doing that next year.
Just got over the shoulder here. Alex Albon, actually, I presume he has given back Lando Norris's paddock pass. He's just giving out autographs to some of the very lucky and lovely people here at the British Grand Prix who are on a VIP pit lane walk as we see one of the safety cars heading out as well. V-carb, final subject. Ruth, coming to you on this one. Daniel Ricciardo responding to the pressure heaped on him by Helmut Marko, saying RB is going to go back to being a junior team, inferring perhaps Liam Lawson will get that seat. Yuki Tsunoda saying they need to work out where a bit of the pace went in that third stint in Austria. Where do you see their chances for this weekend? How do you think RB will respond?
I think they've got to be focused on those last kind of back points positions. 2 points from Daniel, not without fight, so at least he's going swinging for it. And yeah, I think it's going to be reset. The third stint, very tyre dependent, completely different track this week. Reset, go again.
Oh, we will go again. We are going to go again here at the British Grand Prix, the third race of a triple header, and I'm sorry, it's my first of this triple header, so I feel very fresh indeed. Let's take a look at how it all lines up here at Silverstone. The weather is going to play a big part. Do keep your eye on the forecast, as ever, here in the UK. 12:15 for FP1, 3:45 for FP2, and 11:15 for FP3. Our coverage will begin for 3 important practice sessions. Then 2:30 here, track time BST. We'll be building up to qualifying, and then we will head to race day here at the British Grand Prix. A bumper pre-race show to bring you starting at 10 to 2 local time. And there you go, you can see some sun, some blue sky, a lot of wind and a lot of cloud. That pretty much sums up what British weather can be like.
All the weather.
Every single weather system and season in one day, and we are expecting rain as well. Final thoughts, please, and predictions ahead of this weekend. Lawrence, going to come to you first.
I think Lando, heading into this weekend, feels like obviously this is his best chance by a long way to win his home race. I think he's got the confidence. I actually think that battle with Max is going to do wonders here. So I think he's going to edge Max this weekend. I think it's going to be a Lando, Max, Oscar podium.
Love that. Okay. Punchy. Jolyon, where are you going with it?
I was going to go the same.
You can,
Great
Jolyon.
minds. I'm sticking with that. And also, just bring it on. I think it's so well set. If we can have those two evenly matched at the front again, we're guaranteed good action.
Ruth, your prediction, please.
Okay, just to be different, I'm going to go for Max, because I think that RB20 round these high-speed corners will be fast. And then let's put papaya for the rest of it. So let's go Max, Lando, Oscar.
Okay, Will and Alex standing by. What are your predictions, please, for this one?
Lovely question. Alex, what do you got?
People evaluate these now, so I can't go mad with these anymore. So Lando for the win. You've got Verstappen for second, Piastri for third.
There we go.
There we go.
That's exactly what I had. That's exactly what I had.
We can't all go for that. It was one thing when it was just us two.
It's a competition now, guys. It's a competition.
See, we can agree on things.
I put it all on black.
Okay, so you're all in agreement and being really boring and safe. I'm going to say Oscar Piastri is going to pick up his first race win here at the British Grand Prix. Oh, and I've got a cheer from the crowds as well. I'm honestly, and I've also got a shake of the head as well from a Red Bull fan with a number 1 on the cap. I think I know who he may support. We'll see. Yeah, Oscar Piastri to win. Who knows? Join us for practice tomorrow as the British Grand Prix gets underway. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.
This is the British Grand Prix.
It's only available in box office. And the Grand Prix is go! It is Lando Norris who leads from Max Verstappen in second place.
It's such a great atmosphere.
Max Verstappen comes out of the final corner. Max wins the British Grand Prix.